So remember this alteration that I did on this dress? If you don't remember the video, you can just go back a few videos on my page and you'll see the story. So she was going to test out the dress at her event, and if it had any issues, if I needed to shorten the hemline a little bit more, then she would bring it back. But this is her in the dress, absolutely gorgeous. Before, after, how did I do? So the client booked her appointment and finally came in. So she comes in and I'm like, how did the dress work out at your wedding? She was like, everything that could go wrong went wrong with this dress. And I was like, okay, tell me more. So the length that we thought was okay turned out to be a little bit too long. So she was like, you can go ahead and just shorten that way past my shoes, because it was getting in the way. My heels were getting caught in the dress, as well as I think the ties weren't staying tied. You see how they have that tied on the dress there? Hers weren't really staying tied up. They kept getting loose, and then she had to like retie, and it was just a little bit too much to keep on doing. And then I don't know if you remember from the video, or maybe I didn't, maybe this was just discussion between me and her. I had actually suggested, because the dress that she had originally wanted to order had a bit more coverage on the side of her bust. This one is pretty open, but this model can get away with it because of her smaller chest. My client had, her bust area wasn't too large, but it was a little bit open. It was noticeable. And I asked her, I was like, do you want me, while I'm doing these alterations, do you want me to add a bit more coverage for you so that it doesn't show as much as it's showing right now? She was like, no, I'm fine with that. And I'm like, okay, if you're fine with that, that's okay. I do what you tell me to do. And so when she came back, she was like, yeah. My mom sent me a picture of course, her in the dress. And as soon as she saw the picture, that is all that she could see. She shared the picture, and she gave me permission to share. So this is the picture of her in the dress that she saw. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. She probably got away with it, was very confident, but standing still and seeing that in pictures, it's kind of very, very obvious. So I was like, I told you, should have listened to me. I did suggest that I could add a bit more coverage on the side, but what's done is done. It is what it is. So I can do that now. So here's the dress, and this is the part that was a little bit too wide and was gaping. So that is the part that I'm going to go ahead and close, as well as shortening the hem a little bit more. So because the ties were super long, they were actually falling off and getting untied, I am going to utilize these ties. So I'll just cut them in half like I have already done. One of them is in half, that you can see. Just cut them in half, and I'm going to use that to sew onto that area that was exposing too much of the bust. So this is just a quick example of what I'm going to do. I took that piece of fabric that I cut from the ties, and I'm just tucking it in, and I will sew around all the open area just so it kind of it gives a seamless look. You'll still be able to see the seam, but just to give it a seamless look and have that area closed. So it will be from the side seam all up and up onto the other tie, so it looks like one whole piece of fabric. All right, so I'm just going ahead and sewing up the raw edge of the piece that I cut. I will be doing a French seam, so sewing on one side, turning it inside out, and then sewing the other side just so it looks nice and clean before I sew it onto the actual dress. All right, so just finishing off and sewing the other part, and then prepping to sew that onto the dress. Now I don't have a video of me sewing that, but you'll see the final look. So this is the look after I sewed that piece of fabric onto the dress, and you can see nice full coverage up to the side of the dress. I shortened the length, and you can actually see the seam. That is the seam where I added the extra fabric, and the ties are now short. So this worked really well. Thank goodness we had excess fabric to work with. And she came in for another fitting. Let's see how this works. Came in for a fitting, and you can see so much better coverage than before. I don't know why we hadn't done, no, I know why we hadn't done this, but if she had listened to me when I had suggested that I do that. But anyways, we're here, and yes, for sure, I'm just tucking it in, trying to show her that she has control of how loose or how fitted she wants that area. But I think it looks a little bit better, more coverage. The ties are out of her way, so yay. And the final look and movement of her in the dress. She said she was going to do salsa, and I was like, you didn't even show me how you were going to salsa. So this is her doing a little bit of salsa in the dress. The length perfect. At least it's off the floor and it's flowing as she dances, and she has the coverage that she needed. So yay. So before and after, how did I do?